I spent decades helping people change their lives, and you know what I discovered about myself? I used to make the same damn mistake every January that my clients did. I'd set goals, miss them, and condemn myself like an idiot. Then I realized something. The problem wasn't my goals, it was my demand that I must succeed perfectly. Once I caught that irrational belief, everything changed. Let me show you what I mean. Look, I'm not here to give you another motivational pep talk. You've had enough of those. What you need is the truth about why you keep failing, and it's not what you think. Here's what's really happening. Every January, you make promises to yourself. Get fit, build the business, stop the bad habits. Then by February, you've already screwed up a few times. And here's where the damage happens. You start condemning yourself. I'm weak. I'm undisciplined. I'm a failure. But that's horseshit. The problem isn't your willpower. It's not your motivation. It's this. You're demanding perfection from yourself. You're telling yourself you must succeed. You must not slip up. You must be different this year. And when reality doesn't match that demand, you upset yourself into quitting. I've spent 40 years teaching rational emotive behavior therapy, and I can tell you this. Your emotions don't come from your failures. They come from your beliefs about your failures. Change the belief, and you change everything. In the next 25 minutes, I'm going to show you the exact irrational belief that's sabotaging your progress, why most advice about New Year's resolutions is psychologically backwards, how to stay motivated even when you screw up, and the one thinking skill that separates guys who succeed from guys who quit. This isn't theory. This is practical psychology that works. And by the end, you'll have a completely different relationship with your goals, not because you've become superhuman, but because you've stopped demanding that you must be. So let's start with the emotional mistake itself. Most men confuse preference with demand. You want to succeed, and that's healthy. But you tell yourself you must succeed, and that's toxic. This tiny word difference creates massive emotional consequences. Let me show you what I mean with what I call the ABC model. When you miss a workout or break a resolution, here's what happens. A is the activating event. You miss the gym. That's just a fact. B is your belief about that event. And this is where you screw yourself. You think, I must not miss. I'm a failure for missing. Then comes C, the consequence. You feel guilty, ashamed, and you give up entirely. Now here's what most people don't understand. The event didn't cause your misery. Your belief did. The demand did. Missing the gym is just missing the gym. It's neutral, but you made it mean something terrible about you as a person. Let me break down the difference between healthy thinking and toxic thinking. Healthy thinking says, I really want to go to the gym. I prefer consistency. I'm going to try my best. Toxic thinking says, I absolutely must go to the gym. Missing proves I'm worthless. I should just give up. One keeps you going. The other destroys you. And this is what I call masturbation. Yeah, I said it. Masturbation. It's when you masturbate with the word must. You're screwing yourself with demands. You must do this. You must not do that. You should always succeed. You should never fail. These musts and shoulds are irrational demands you're making on yourself, and they're killing your motivation. Here's another trap you fall into. It's called all or nothing thinking. You think, if I can't do it perfectly, why bother? You miss one day at the gym, so you figure you've already failed, might as well quit entirely. You eat one cookie on your diet, so you say screw it and eat the whole box. This is completely irrational. Progress isn't linear. Perfection is a myth invented by people who want to feel superior. Real change is messy. It's 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Sometimes it's 1 step forward, 3 steps back. That's normal. That's human. But you're demanding perfection, and perfection doesn't exist. So you're demanding the impossible. How's that working for you? And here's why this happens, especially in January. New Year's creates this symbolic fresh start that amplifies all your perfectionism. You attach your self-worth to a calendar date, which is completely irrational. There's nothing magical about January 1st. It's just another day. But you act like this is your one shot to become a different person, and if you blow it, you're done. That's insane. You can start fresh any day. You can start fresh right now, in this moment. But instead, you wait for January, build up all this pressure, demand that you must succeed this time, and then crumble under the weight of your own irrational expectations. Let me tell you about a client I worked with. This guy tried to quit smoking 17 times. 17 times. And every time he relapsed, he called himself a failure. He'd say, "I'm weak. I have no willpower. I'll never quit." And I'd tell him, "You're not a failure, you're learning. Each attempt taught you something." But he couldn't hear that because he was too busy condemning himself. Then we worked on unconditional self-acceptance. He learned to separate his behavior from his worth as a human being. He could say, "I smoked today, but that doesn't make me a bad person. It just means I smoked today." Once he stopped demanding perfection and accepted himself no matter what, he finally quit for good. That was attempt number 18. But it only worked because he changed his thinking. Now, you might be thinking, "But Albert, if I don't demand success for myself, won't I just become lazy?" That's what everyone asks. And it's exactly backwards. Let me show you why. When you demand perfection and inevitably fail, you condemn yourself. This self-condemnation creates shame. And shame is the motivation killer. You're not quitting because you're weak. You're quitting because you're beating yourself up. Here's what happens. It's a shame spiral. You miss one day, and you think, "I'm a failure." Then you feel terrible. Then you avoid the gym because it reminds you of your failure. So you miss more days. And then you think, "See, I knew I was a failure." So you quit entirely. Your demand created the spiral, not the missed workout. Let me explain the difference between self-esteem and self-acceptance, because this is crucial. Self-esteem is conditional. It says, "I'm worthwhile if I succeed. I have value if I achieve my goals. I'm a good person when I do well." But what happens when you don't succeed? When you don't achieve? When you screw up? Your self-esteem crumbles, and then you feel worthless. Self-acceptance is completely different. It's unconditional. It says, "I'm worthwhile, period. Whether I succeed or fail. Whether I achieve my goals or not. I accept myself as a fallible human being who will make mistakes." And that acceptance keeps you in the game. Here's the paradox that most people don't understand. The harder you condemn yourself for failing, the less motivated you become. Why? Because you're associating your goal with pain and shame. Every time you think about the gym, you feel bad about yourself. Every time you think about your resolution, you remember how you failed. So your brain starts avoiding it. It's protecting you from the pain. But the pain isn't coming from the goal. It's coming from your irrational beliefs about the goal. When you accept yourself, even when you fail, you can look at failure rationally and adjust. You can say, "Okay, I missed 3 workouts this week. That's unfortunate. What got in my way? How can I plan better next time?" No drama. No self-hatred. Just problem solving. Let me ask you this. What actually drives change? Is it self-hatred? Is it demanding you must be perfect? Is it tough love where you beat yourself up? No. None of that works long-term. What works is this. Clear preference plus self-acceptance plus practical problem solving. You prefer to succeed. You accept yourself whether you do or not. And you solve problems rationally without the emotional drama. That's it. That's the formula. Think about learning to ride a bike when you were a kid. When you fell off, you didn't say, "I'm a worthless person who can't bike." You got back on. Why? Because you hadn't attached your self-worth to biking. You just wanted to learn. You prefer to stay on a bike, but when you fell, you accepted it and tried again. Apply that same logic to your resolutions. You want to get fit. Great. When you miss a workout, accept it and go tomorrow. Don't make it mean something terrible about who you are as a person. Look at professional athletes. They lose games all the time. Do they quit the sport because they lost? No. They analyze what went wrong and try again. They separate their performance from their worth as a human being. They know that losing a game doesn't make them worthless. It just means they lost a game. You need to do the same thing with your resolutions. Missing a day doesn't make you worthless. It just means you missed a day. And let me be clear here. You're torturing yourself for being human. Would you talk to your kid the way you talk to yourself? If your son came to you and said, "Dad, I missed my workout. I'm a complete failure," what would you tell him? You'd probably say, "Hey, it's okay. Missing one workout isn't a big deal. Just go tomorrow." But when it's you, you're brutal. You're vicious. You condemn yourself like you've committed some terrible crime. And this pattern destroys lives. It destroys marriages. It destroys careers. It destroys happiness. Because you carry this self-condemnation everywhere. and it poisons everything. All right, so if demands destroy motivation, what's the alternative? I'm not telling you to just accept mediocrity. That's not what I'm saying at all. Here's the thinking skill you actually need. Replace absolute demands with strong preferences. Want success passionately, but accept reality flexibly. This isn't lowering your standards. It's thinking rationally about achievement. Here's how you reframe it. Old thinking says, I must go to the gym 5 days a week. New thinking says, I strongly prefer to go 5 days a week. If I miss days, that's unfortunate, but not catastrophic. I'll get back to it. Same goal. Zero self-torture. You're still aiming for 5 days. You're still working hard, but you're not destroying yourself when reality doesn't cooperate. Now let me teach you how to dispute the demand. This is a skill. You have to practice it. When you catch yourself thinking you must succeed, ask yourself this question: where's the evidence that I must succeed? And really look for it. Is there a law of the universe that says you must achieve this goal? Is there some cosmic rule that demands your perfection? No, there isn't. The universe doesn't owe you success. You're not entitled to perfection. You're just a human being trying to improve. And accepting this reality is freedom, not defeat. Here are the 3 insights you need to understand. Insight number 1. Your thinking creates your emotions, not the event. The gym doesn't make you feel guilty. Your belief about missing the gym makes you feel guilty. Insight number 2. You maintain your emotional problems by repeating irrational beliefs. Every time you tell yourself you must succeed, you strengthen that neural pathway. You're practicing being miserable. Insight number 3. Only practice and work changes these beliefs. Knowing this intellectually isn't enough. You have to practice rational thinking repeatedly until it becomes automatic. So here's a practical exercise you can do right now. Every time you notice a demand, and you'll start noticing them everywhere once you look, do these 3 steps. Step 1. Catch it. Say to yourself, there's that demand again. I'm telling myself I must do something. Step 2. Challenge it. Ask, where's the law of the universe that says this must happen? Why must it? Step 3. Replace it. Say, I prefer this, but I don't need it to accept myself. This takes practice. You won't be perfect at it. See what I did there? You don't need to be perfect at disputing your demands either. Let me tell you about a businessman I worked with. He demanded that he must never make mistakes in presentations. Every time he stumbled over a word or forgot a point, he'd beat himself up for days. He was terrified of public speaking because he demanded perfection. After learning REBT, he still wanted to do well in presentations. He still prepared thoroughly. He still cared about his performance. But he stopped catastrophizing errors. He'd think, I prefer to give a smooth presentation, but if I make a mistake, I'm still a worthwhile person. The audience won't die. I won't die. It's just a mistake. And you know what happened? He actually performed better because he wasn't paralyzed by anxiety. The demand was creating the very problem he was trying to avoid. Let me break down a typical New Year's resolution with you. The irrational version says, I must lose 20 pounds by March or I'm a disgusting failure. I should be able to stick to my diet perfectly. I must not cheat or I'm weak. Can you feel the pressure in that? Can you feel how that's setting you up for disaster? Now here's the rational version. I strongly want to lose 20 pounds. I'll work toward it consistently. If I miss workouts or eat poorly sometimes, that's human, not catastrophic. I'll keep going because I'm committed to my health, not because I'm trying to prove I'm not worthless. Same goal, completely different emotional experience. Now you might be thinking this sounds too soft, like I'm telling you to have no standards. But here's what you don't understand about unconditional self-acceptance. You are not your behavior. You can accept yourself completely while still working to improve your actions. This separation is the key to lasting change. You're not a failure. You failed at one thing. You're not lazy. You behaved lazily today. You're not weak. You made a weak choice in this moment. Your behaviors are changeable. Your inherent worth is not. Let me ask you something. Has hating yourself ever led to lasting positive change? Think about it honestly. Has it? No. It leads to avoidance. It leads to shame. It leads to giving up. It leads to temporary change driven by self-disgust that doesn't last. But self-acceptance leads to honest self-assessment. It leads to practical problem solving. It leads to resilience after setbacks. It leads to sustainable motivation. Because when you accept yourself, you can look at your failures without the emotional drama and actually learn from them. Here's what most people get wrong. They think their worth depends on their achievements. If I succeed, I'm worthwhile. If I fail, I'm worthless. But that's the worth fallacy. And it guarantees emotional instability. Because achievement is unstable. Sometimes you win. Sometimes you lose. If your worth is tied to that, you're on an emotional roller coaster forever. Here's the reality. You're a fallible human being. Period. Not worthless. Not especially worthwhile. Just a person. You have worth simply because you exist. Your achievements don't add to it. Your failures don't subtract from it. Accepting this is difficult because you've been taught the opposite your whole life. But it's the truth. So how do you practice unconditional self-acceptance? It's a daily practice. You have to work at it like building a muscle. First, notice self-rating. Catch yourself when you say things like, "I'm so stupid. I'm such a loser. I'm worthless." These are global ratings of your entire self based on one behavior. Second, separate self from behavior. Say instead, "I acted stupidly in this situation. That doesn't make me a stupid person. I failed at this task. That doesn't make me a failure as a human being." Third, affirm this to yourself. Say, "I accept myself unconditionally, whether I succeed or fail. I'm not my behaviors. I'm a person who has behaviors, and those behaviors can change." Now, I'll be honest with you. This feels fake at first. You'll say it and not believe it. Do it anyway, because it's rational, not emotional. Your emotions will catch up eventually if you practice the rational thinking consistently. I know this sounds like positive thinking nonsense, but it's not. I'm not telling you to pretend you're great. I'm telling you to stop rating yourself at all. You're not great. You're not terrible. You're human. Let me give you a metaphor. Think of yourself like a computer. The hardware, that's you, has inherent value as hardware. It exists. It functions. The software, that's your behaviors, can have bugs and need updates. You don't trash the whole computer because the software has a bug. You debug the software. Apply that same logic to yourself. You don't trash your entire self because your behavior has problems. You work on changing the behavior while accepting the hardware is fine. I work with a guy who'd been telling himself he was a fat loser for years. He'd lose weight, gain it back, feel worthless, repeat the cycle. I taught him to reframe it. You're not fat. You have fat on your body. That's descriptive, not evaluative. You're not a loser. You're a person who hasn't found the right approach yet. That reframe changed everything. He stopped the diet binge cycle because he stopped condemning himself. He could look at his eating habits rationally without all the emotional baggage. And he eventually lost the weight and kept it off. Not because he hated himself into change. Because he accepted himself and problem solved. Okay, so you understand the theory. You know demands are irrational. You know self-acceptance is key. But how do you actually apply this when you're 3 weeks into January and you've already screwed up? Let me give you the practical method. This is the REBT approach in action. We've talked about the ABC model. Now let me add the D. D is for disputation. E is for new effect. So the full model is ABCD. A is the activating event. You broke your resolution. B is the belief. I must not break it. I'm worthless for failing. C is the consequence. Shame, guilt, quitting. Most people stop here. But winners go to D and E. D is disputation. You challenge the irrational belief. E is the new effect. Rational emotion and productive behavior. Here's how you dispute in practice. When you catch yourself demanding something, ask these questions. Where's the evidence this must be true? Does breaking this resolution make me a totally worthless person, or just a person who made a mistake? Will I die if I don't achieve this perfectly? Is this demand helping me or hurting me? Be your own rational therapist. Cross-examine your beliefs like a lawyer. Make them prove themselves. And when they can't, which they can't because they're irrational, replace them with preferences. Now let me give you what I call the 80-20 resolution approach. Instead of demanding 100% perfection, plan for 80% adherence. Build in flexibility from start. When you hit 70%, you're still in the game. When you hit 50%, you adjust strategy, not self-worth. Perfectionists quit at 90% because they can't handle not being perfect. Rationalists succeed at 70% because they're playing the long game. They know that 70% sustained over a year beats 100% sustained for 3 weeks. Here's your setback protocol. Memorize this. When you inevitably mess up, do these 4 steps. Step 1. Notice the demand. Say, I'm telling myself I shouldn't have done that. I'm demanding perfection. Step 2. Challenge it. Say, I prefer not to mess up, but I'm human and will make mistakes. There's no universal law against mistakes. Step 3. Accept yourself. Say, I accept me even though I screwed up. My worth doesn't depend on this behavior. Step 4. Problem solve. Ask, what can I do differently next time? No drama, just reality and adjustment. Let me tell you about my own experience with this. I wanted to write every day. It's what professional writers do, right? So I'd set this goal, write every day, and I'd miss days. And I'd get pissed at myself. Why can't you do this? You're a psychologist. You should know better. And then I realized what I was doing. I'm demanding that I must write daily. Why must I? I can't find a reason. It would be preferable to write daily. It would help my productivity. But there's no law that says I must. I can accept myself whether I write today or not. Once I shifted a preference, I actually wrote more because I stopped the shame cycle. I wasn't avoiding my desk because it reminded me of my failure. I was just sitting down and writing when I could. Right now, think of a resolution you've already broken this year. I know you have one. We're in January. You've already slipped up on something. Got it in your mind? Good. Now do this exercise with me. What demand are you making about it? Find the must or the should. Maybe it's I must stick to my diet. I should go to the gym every day. I must not waste time. Whatever it is, identify it. Now ask yourself, what's the evidence I must succeed at this? Really look for the evidence. You won't find any because there is none. Now replace the demand with a preference. I want to stick to my diet. I prefer to go to the gym regularly. I like to use my time better. Feel the difference? The goal is the same, but the emotional weight is completely different. Finally, what's the next action? Forget the past. Forget what you already failed at. What's one thing you can do today that moves you toward your goal? That's REBT in action. That's rational living. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. This sounds great, Albert, but what about when life actually gets hard? What about when I face real obstacles? Fair question. Let me address that. Life will throw obstacles at your resolutions. The question isn't whether you'll face challenges. It's whether you'll think rationally when you do. Most people have what I call low frustration tolerance. They think, I can't stand this difficulty. This is too hard. I give up. But you need to develop high frustration tolerance. This is hard, but I can stand it. Discomfort doesn't kill me. Frustration is uncomfortable, not unbearable. Here's what your brain does. It tells you this is too hard, give up. It's trying to protect you from discomfort. But discomfort is the price of growth. If you want to change, you have to accept discomfort. That doesn't mean you like it. It means you accept it. There's a huge difference. You can hate going to the gym and still go. You can hate eating vegetables and still eat them. You don't have to enjoy the process. You just have to accept that difficult things are difficult. Rational response to difficulty is this. It's supposed to be hard. Hard doesn't mean impossible. It just means hard. Let me talk about awfulizing. That's another word I made up. It's when you take something bad and make it awful. You think, it's awful that I'm struggling. It's terrible that this is hard. It's horrible that I'm not succeeding faster. But is it really awful? Awful would be terminal cancer. Awful would be losing your child. Awful would be war and famine. This is just hard. It's unfortunate. It's inconvenient. But it's not awful. Keep perspective. Don't catastrophize normal difficulties. And here's something else you need to hear. You're not changing your life in January. You're building habits over years. One bad month doesn't erase progress. One good month doesn't mean you're done. Think in years, not weeks. This is a long game. You're going to have good months and bad months. You're going to have wins and losses. That's normal. That's life. Stop expecting linear progress and start accepting reality. Let me tell you about a guy I worked with who injured his back 3 months into his fitness resolution. He wanted to quit entirely. He said, "What's the point? I can't do the workouts anymore. I might as well give up." And I said, "The point is you're not dead. Modify the workouts. Do what you can. Stop demanding that circumstances be perfect for you to try." He did. He worked with a physical therapist. He adjusted his routine. He did what his body allowed. And 6 months later, he was stronger than before the injury because he'd learned to train smarter. But he only got there because he stopped demanding perfect circumstances and accepted reality. Life won't accommodate your demands. It doesn't care what you think must happen. It just is what it is. Your job is to think rationally within reality, not demand that reality change to suit you. When obstacles come, and they will, you dispute your demand about the obstacles. You think, "I prefer this obstacle wasn't here, but it is, so now what? How do I adapt? What can I control? What can't I control?" That's rational thinking under pressure. That's resilience. All right, we've covered a lot. Let me bring this all together and give you something you can use starting today. The biggest emotional mistake you make every new year is demanding perfection from yourself. You turn healthy desires into toxic musts. And when you inevitably fall short, you condemn yourself into quitting. But now you know the truth. Your emotions come from your beliefs, not your circumstances. Change the belief from demand to preference, and you change everything. You don't need to become a different person. You need to think rationally about being the person you already are. Fallible, human, imperfect, and still completely acceptable. So here's your challenge. The next time you break a resolution, and you will, catch that demand. Notice when you're telling yourself you must succeed or you're worthless. Then dispute it like your life depends on it, because your emotional well-being does depend on it. Replace "I must" with "I prefer." Replace self-condemnation with self-acceptance. Replace all or nothing thinking with flexible problem-solving. Will you do this perfectly? Hell no. You'll screw this up too. But when you do, you'll have the tools to get back in the game without torturing yourself. That's rational living. That's how you actually change. Now, if you want to go deeper into how your irrational beliefs are sabotaging other areas of your life, not just resolutions, but relationships, career, anxiety, anger, I've got another video that breaks down the 3 core irrational beliefs that cause most human misery. These beliefs are running in the background of your mind right now, creating unnecessary suffering. And once you identify them, you can't unsee them. Click the video on your screen right now. It's called The 3 Irrational Beliefs Destroying Your Life. Watch it before these beliefs cost you another year. Now go. Think rationally. Accept yourself. And get back to work.